Now, what is visual memory? Well, at its basic premise, it's things that have been seen in the past, right? Isn't it? At its basic level. So what are things that we might see? Well, words, objects, people, activities, and that probably covers everything, right? Like what else would you see that isn't covered? Am I missing something here? Please let me know in the chat if I'm missing something about the things seen in the past. And when we think about words, objects, people, activities, I think we can throw in there data, right? Like data is an object, isn't it? And speaking of data, I did this poll recently about offering a 4-week implementation program. Language learning, memory techniques for language learning won out. And then the second biggest was a guided reading, for example, for the art of memory. And then we had memory techniques for verbatim text speeches. That could be poetry, it could be scripture. And then the next was no particular focus. And then we had memory techniques for meditation. So meditation was the lowest there. That was very, very interesting. And we're in something like statistical relevance, I guess, maybe not as much as we would like with 171 votes. But that was very interesting. And I would just love for you to say more to me about how specifically I can help you reach your memory goals, especially during this time. I want to do something very, very special. We've got a lot of stress going on in the world at the moment, and I would love to know how to be accelerating this service. Obviously, what we're doing here is a public service on these live streams, and there's many, many ways to do things that are even more intimate and engaging for people if I just know what those things are. So let me know what you might like to see. Anyway, the point here is that visualization and memory have to do with things seen in the past, and data is something that we've seen in the past. And so a poll like this is also part of what visual memory would be, because I can think back and go, okay, so most people said language learning, and now my visual memory is helping me because of the visual layout here. And I could use memory techniques, which we'll talk about later, to remember 42%. Who here has a 00 to 99? What is your 42? Share in the chat. I'll share mine if you like. And on the matter of meditation, for those of you who are interested in meditation, the Victorious Mind is up for pre-order. If you would like to get the Victorious Mind, how to master memory, meditation, and mental well-being, and get a free course called How to Stop Thinking, please make sure you head on over to Amazon, get that pre-order, send me the receipt, and I will hook you up ASAP with that free course. Thank you to everybody already who's been making it a great success so far. I really appreciate that. And I'm really hoping to help people around the world with this issue, because I went through hell and back, and I still have to do a lot daily in order to keep myself out of hell. So I'm very, very excited to be able to help more people with that, and really appreciate everybody who has been interested and engaged. All right, so we will catch up with the chat in a minute, but I want to go through more about what visual memory is so we can get to the exercises. Keep your questions coming though. If you're just joining us, hit thumbs up, get subscribed to this channel if you aren't already subscribed, and let me know where you are in the world, how things are going for you, are you keeping safe, and all that stuff. And so visual memory, of course, has to do with short-term and long-term memory. And when we think about short-term memory and we think about long-term memory, there's a number of things involved. And we know that the divisions are not that clear. Science describes things quite nicely, but remember that science is a tool for gathering evidence that confirms or denies hypotheses. And we always want to think about how we're going to be scientific about things. And so when we think about short and long-term memory in our practice, we need to think about our goals. So memorizing a deck of cards, for example, is typically going to be a short-term memory exercise. But if we want to memorize a deck of cards for use in magic tricks, then that's going to be a long-term memory exercise. So we're going to want to use different techniques to reach those different goals, right? So that's very, very important. But generally, visual memory is something that we use every single day, right? So we need it to remember where you put your keys, your wallet, your glasses, etc. Here's a tip though. in order to be more efficient in everyday life and not burn up unnecessary mental energy, why not just put your keys and your wallets and your glasses just in the same place every single day, right? That's just a simple way to save on energy. When we think about visual memory, though, and its everyday use, we also need it for spelling. We need it for writing. We need it for reading. We need it for reciting numbers to people, right? Because often we will think of our own numbers. And in order to even track where in a smartphone, for example, your family emergency numbers might be, you would have some visual memory component that just helps you find in the device where you need to go to dial the different people, right? So visual memory is involved in all these things. By the way, I'd be interested, is anybody up for, I didn't put it there in that initial survey, but for a nice multi-day memory training on numbers? I've been thinking, a lot of people, they might be having issues at this time. They might benefit from knowing their emergency numbers. They might benefit from actually being able to tell, for example, a medical health professional the phone numbers of their loved ones because maybe their battery runs out because there's no access to energy, but they still need to be able to recite those numbers, insurance numbers, etc. Who would be interested in a multi-day course all about that would help you in that area with some fun exercises? Let me know. And if crickets, well, then you got to think about yourself. How will not having number skills and those emergency numbers memorized potentially lead to tragedy, right? How will it affect your business? How will it affect your family? How will it affect your personal life by not having those things covered, right? Think about that. I don't know. It's your life. But I hope to help people in that regard and maybe launch a little mini course about that. All right, so we need these things, though. We need visual memory even just to find numbers that we may not have memorized inside of our devices. We also need them for everyday incidents. So I've told you the story recently that you may have caught or maybe not about how my friend Ollie was here and there was a weird drunk guy out front of our building one night that we were getting out into a car to go someplace to dinner. And he was weird, this guy. He was going up to particularly young women and yelling at them, swearing at them, etc. So I called up the cops, and everybody was just blown away by the 3 minutes of visual detail I was giving about this guy, down to the widow's peak, the color of his hair, color of his shirt, color of his shoes, the brand of the cigarettes, etc., etc. And this is coming from a good observation that leads to visual recall. So being able to describe incidents is a huge part of visual memory, and your ability to serve as a good citizen of your community really comes down to how good your memory is. So you got to think, what would happen if you didn't develop this and you could have been the one who helped catch a bad guy sooner, helped get critical details to a medical professional that would have saved a life. You gotta think about that stuff. What happens if you don't take care of this? Your part of doing your part is to be prepared at the best possible level and be that one individual in your family, in your community, who has the highest possible memory skills developed and ready to go, right? Who disagrees with that? I'm very curious to see if anybody disagrees with that